It's Fernando with VA Housing Education. Today, we're going to be talking about how to find and work with various military groups and help the veteran community. Now, this video is for the real estate community, but it's not bad information for the rest of the community because other veterans also want to know how to find and work and connect with military members around their area. So excited to have everyone here. Again, David Piatek. My background is I've been in the lending space for 18 years, currently serving in the military for the last 14 years, and just love giving back to the community. That's why we do what we do. I also be an instructor for real estate and developing courses for realtors and the veteran community. So, Lourdes, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what we're going to do today.
Yeah, so my name is Lourdes Fernando. I have been in the real estate profession for 5 years. I'm a realtor here in the Chicagoland area. I also served 11 years in the Army National Guard. I've done some PCS moves. I've done all kinds of things, used my VA home loan personally, a total of 3 times. So I'm well versed, and I love to give back to our community just to ease any type of burdens that might come up and be able to educate our military personnel.
Awesome. And now, when it comes to understanding the benefits for the real estate community around the veteran VA home loan, we've done separate videos on these topics where we kind of go in depth, and actually next month's event's going to like break down like in detail all the benefits that veterans have so you can be an advocate for the military community. But some of the benefits that veterans have with the VA home loan is, one, veterans are able to use that throughout the course of their life, right? So they can use it unlimited times, they can buy and sell. It's something that, when we talk with listing agents, a lot of people are like, well, why would they use the VA home loan? Well, there's a ton of benefits with it, right? And it's not because they're not qualified because they're doing 100% financing. That's the benefit that they earned by serving our country, right? It's 100% financing. And if they don't have an outstanding VA home loan, there's no limit. So if they qualify for a $2 million property, they could buy it with not a penny down. Now, there's still closing costs, right? So they need some money for that. And if they have earnest money that's required, that's still going to be factored into that component, but there's no limit. And they still can have multiple VA loans. And a lot of times, either lenders don't know these things and veterans get steered away from using the VA home loan. That's a common one. We still hear that today, and I don't know where that exists, Lourdes. It's like people will be like, oh, I'm trying to buy a multi-unit, but I'm capped. And I'm like, I'm really, like lenders just don't know this. And this is also coming from big lending institutions. Now, if a veteran has a service-connected disability, they also get property tax breaks. Now, they don't have to use the VA loan in order to get those breaks. They just need to be on the title of the property. And that really depends on where you're at in the country. Every state, county, city might have a different requirement. But for example, Illinois, it's 70% or higher. Some states require 100% permanent and total. So those are those benefits for sure. Even today, people are like, I didn't even know I can get my property taxes waived, which allows veterans to be able to purchase, being more comfortable with that, knowing that they're going to be able to exempt those taxes and lower their payments. So it's big benefit. But again, if they don't use the VA loan, it's okay. And that kind of goes with along with the education we're talking about, right? If you know that as a realtor to say, hey, if a veteran brings up like, hey, I have a service connected disability. Do I get anything special for the transaction? Well, it depends on what it is, right? Knowing those things for your local area is going to help you be able to achieve that. And the cool thing too is that veterans could buy a lot of different properties as well, right? They could buy single family homes, planned unit developments, condos. I'll touch on it quick. We have a whole video on purchasing a condo. Realtors, it is the easiest process to do. It's super simple. Any condo can get a VA waiver. So even if you find a condo that's denied, that's even easier. Especially if it's denied in the last year, you just submit a waiver. It's like literally takes a couple days. Condos aren't VA approved. It takes about a week on average. That's what we see. And then it gets denied. If it gets denied, and then it's just like a 3 or 5 day business turn time to get get a waiver, and you're rocking and rolling. So those are just things to think about when we talk about this. And this is why when you get in front of veteran groups, how do you provide value? So we're going to talk about all that stuff and how do we get presentations? How do we get in front of people? I'll kind of cover all that. And the other thing too, I would say for the real estate community to know is about appraisals, right? Appraisals for VA home loans, as far as getting value, are looser than FHA and conventional loans. Most people think it's the opposite. Now, where the VA is stricter is around the appraisal the condition of the property. But there's so many outs for people to be able to do their repairs themselves after closing, so veterans can do it. That's why a lot of times we have veterans purchase as is properties, and that opens up the floodgates for people to be able to purchase. I mean, Lourdes and I, we do that all the time in the Chicagoland area. But again, this applies across the country. Veterans can set up escrow accounts and fund it themselves. Sellers don't have to do anything in order for them to be able to purchase a property and then do the repairs after closing, unless it's like a safety issue, but that's going to be almost any deal, right? So huge
Yeah, that's
benefits
really good.
into that piece. So
That's really good for multiple offers if you're in that situation and they say, "Oh no," because the VA home loan requires all these repairs to be done. If the veteran agrees to it and they're aware, you can say, "Hey, they can always put that money aside and fix that after closing," which has closed so many deals on multiple offers for us.
oh yeah,
And of course, the buyer, we advise the buyer, we say, "Hey, all these things are wrong," but they're really persistent, really want to go through with it, then we'll advise them correctly. So that's great for
that's
that.
pretty cool. And then I'll just tell you one other thing too that I learned. I mean, I know this from just of talking with the VA, but one of the things that VA home loans come with is what's called the VA amendatory clause. That's a clause that if the value comes in low, veteran could walk away if the deal isn't sealed. But if the veteran waives their financing contingency for the VA on the sales contract, that supersedes the VA mandatory clause. So if the value comes in low, then the veteran would still be responsible for it. Most people don't realize that. Talk with your attorney about that. But this is something we've talked to the VA about. And I just talked to an attorney again yesterday, and they've confirmed it that if they waive it, they're still responsible for it. So a lot of veterans have money out there that want to buy, and they're like, I don't care what it is. I want this property. That's the veteran's choice, right? It's not the program's choice. So kind of keep that in mind. That's why it's so competitive, and you got to know this information.
Yeah, perfect. Do you want to go ahead and jump into our next topic?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about understanding the military clientele and just some of the unique challenges that they have when it comes to that. So, Laura's break it down for us. Like, what does that military client look like?
Yeah, so there are, I want to say, three different phases of our clientele, our veteran clientele population. So you do have those that are currently serving on active duty. So every 3 to 4 years, they're going to have to make a move, which is it's called a PCS move, and that means they would have to sell or buy or rent every 3 years, and it's a lot. So after the 3rd or 4th time, you're like, "I just wanna buy a house, I wanna live there. When I leave, I'm gonna sell or I'm gonna go ahead and rent out my property." So it's really important to understand the needs and educate the military clientele accordingly. So if they want to have multiple income properties. They want to purchase a house when they PCS, purchase another house, and continue using their VA benefits. It's very important for you to understand as a real estate agent to say, okay, let's look at let's look at your entire entitlement. Let's do the math and see if you can actually do this. Let's not buy on the top of your budget so you still have some entitlement left. So it's very important for you to have those conversations. And then you have the veterans who are completely done with service and they are looking to stay in a place long term. So, with those goals, we're going to be looking at something a little bit different. And then you have those who are retiring. Also, they are looking for somewhere, hey, this is going to be my retirement, my forever home. So, they also have a unique sets of needs. So, it's really important for you to identify what those needs are and properly identify the class. Another thing for you to understand is deployment cycles. Like, what do they do when, if they're on active duty? What do they do if they're deployed and they are saying, hey, I'm getting ready to deploy in a couple months, but I'm looking for a condo and I can get a waiver, but they don't allow rentals. Is this going to be a good purchase for your clients? So, this is really important for you to dig deep and really figure out the overall needs of your client. And as real estate agents, we're here to guide the clients and making sure that they are going to be making a wise purchase and just being that advocate for them, because most of the time, I always wanted to live in a condo, and my ex was like, "No, I want to live in a single family home." I'm like, "What about a multi-unit?" "No, I want to live in a single family home." But it's really important for us to understand the whole picture and the reasons why behind the whys. As far as military clientele, I mean, I love working with all my clients, but with military clientele, it's very special because I also serve, so I'm a veteran myself, and I feel like I'm helping my brothers and my sisters out there. But they are one of the most loyal sets of people, I want to say. Although there are some others that are very loyal too, but they definitely, it's like oh, you serve too, I serve too. It's like a brotherhood, sisterhood right away. It's pretty awesome. And we follow directions, so follow advice and stuff like that. So that is really 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 awesome, and I love working with military personnel. They're usually on time for some showings most of the time. um, or
That is
before you,
true.
they're like, hey, I'm here. I'm like, oh, it's like 2 minutes before. Oh, I'm late. So that is great. And also service, they've gone through a lot. Our service members have gone through the ringer, so it is an honor to be able to work on day to day with military personnel. So that's a little bit about military clientele. David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and it's one of the things to note too is like, we're both veterans and we work with the military, but it doesn't mean that you have to be a military person to work with veterans, right? The important part when you, let's say, don't share that same experience, right? Because I think a lot of times we share the same frustrations from the military, right? It brings you together, right? The good times and the bad times, you understand it. That's why you have a faster, let's say, camaraderie with somebody that's in the military, right? You could just have a regular conversation. But if you're not, right, from the real estate side, is to get educated about the program so you can be a sounding board for them, right? Because veterans get a lot of misinformation around the program. Take courses like the military relocation professional certification. I am one of the contributors to the course. I'm a national instructor. The program gives you it's not going to give you the answers to everything, but it gives you a baseline on how to find and work with veterans, understanding their rank structure. Every veteran situation is going to be different. Sometimes I'll call somebody and they'll be like, hey, it's Commander blank. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, it's Jimmy, right? So everyone likes to be addressed differently, right? Depending on where you are. Sometimes they'll address you by, hey, Sergeant, hey, Captain, or whatever the case may be. It's just good to know the rank structure because it also gives you an idea of their pay structure because that's all public information, right? If you just Google DoD or military sergeant pay for the U.S. Army, it'll pop up like the DoD's website. Like everything, right? Especially like if veterans are PCSing, they have to realize that they're actually going to be qualifying in the new BAH, right, which is Basic Allowance for Housing. So if they're, let's say, in like Fort Polk, Louisiana, where BH is $1,000, They move to New York, now it's 4,500. So they have to realize that. And they can also actually get advanced pay to cover for moving expenses or putting a deposit down on the property. So that's something that's definitely possible to do, but just knowing some of that small stuff eases the pain for people. Because, like you said, Lourdes, it's like when you PCS the first time, you're like, you don't even know what's going on. Like it's just like for folks out there that are military as well, you probably could relate to this. And again, if you guys have questions, please drop them in the chat. Happy to answer them for you, especially if you're in the a military client or spouse. Drop and let us share with us your experience on, yes, it's tough, and finding the right people to guide you through that process allows you to do a lot of different things with that, right? So I'm going to talk about leveraging your VA home loan expertise. Now, I touched on some of the things a little bit earlier, but I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the key pain points that we talk when we have discussions with realtors that that's either incorrect or because of like people passing down information. That one person had a bad experience 30 years ago and they're like, oh, I don't want to do this deal with this anymore. And that is very common in markets where there isn't a lot of military members. So that's one thing to note, right? So in markets where, like I see in Chicago, we have what's 550, 600,000 veterans, but still not that many VA home loans. When we talk to agents, like, I've never done one or it's been a long time. And we're like, that's kind
Right.
of crazy. Like, we do a ton of them. And then you have other markets where there's a ton of military. So let's say Arlington, Virginia, right? The whole DC, Maryland, Virginia area, where there's an extreme amount of veterans, over 300,000 VA home loans. Yet people don't want to take them because there's a bad stigma around them because of, again, bad experiences. So knowing some of these things. So we touched a little bit about the appraisal process, okay? But I want to dive a little bit deeper to explain where that comes from and what really can be omitted. So the most common issue, or the most common appraisal correction that's required, right? The most common one is going to be peeling paint. So peeling paint around door doors, door edges, windows, garage, deck. That's the most common one, right, Lord? It's like we really don't, unless like the house is completely like dilapidated. That's the common one we get. That one is probably the easiest one to fix because if the home was built after 1968, you can just ask the VA for a waiver and you don't have to do a thing. The reason why that exists is because that's after that they didn't use lead-based paint anymore. That's what the VA is concerned about. That's the reality. If the home was built prior to that, they're going to come back and say, hey, this repair item is needed. And they're going to attach an estimate to that. The client just needs to go and get an estimate from a contractor. They provide the estimate, and then the lender is going to hold back 1.5 times that piece of that amount. So it makes it extremely easy to be able to do that. To be able to do that component. Just give me 1 second. I just got to respond to something. Someone's trying to get into the class here. All right, cool. Yeah. So and on top of that, once they get that quote, they don't have to be able to use. They don't have to use the seller's money. They can actually set up the money themselves in an escrow account. And like in a competitive market, that makes a big deal, right? It's a big difference on if you're going to win a contract or not, because most of the time sellers just want to sell as is. So that's something to keep in mind. And let's say you got a dilapidated garage on the property. It doesn't add value because it's just so dilapidated that it's just not even worth repairing. You can ask the appraiser to omit the entire structure and they won't ask you to fix it. I mean, that is an awesome feature to be able to have with the program itself. And a lot of veterans get steered away from it, either because people don't want to accept their offers with VA home loans, or they keep hearing that it's a hard process from other veterans. And I see that online. Like, we do a lot of videos, we do a lot of presentations for nonprofits, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. Like, that's some of the common things where veterans like, I can't win with my VA home loan offer, right? that's heartbreaking to hear when it's actually a super easy process, but it's maybe not the people that they're working with that has that, right? That's why you have two sides to, or three components, right? The clients that may not know, right? And Lord is like, you know, you a lot active duty service members, a lot of times you don't even meet them until closing, if you even meet them at closing, because we do power of attorney all the time. But you have to know these things in advance, like, are you going to be using a power of attorney? Do we need to do a video walkthrough? you know because all those things affect the lending side and the real estate transaction, right? If I'm
Yeah,
taking
that
videos, can I
goes
take videos? You want to add in on that?
Yeah, that just goes back to like understanding your client's needs. I know when we were PCS, it was horrible. We had to fly down here. We had to do this. We had to do that. COVID allowed us to make a transition in the business to where everything was virtual. And I go in describing the smells. I'll walk into a shower. If the shower is like really low, not on, of course, off, but in the video, I'm like, hey, this is really, I'm this tall. And so I'm very descriptive, but anything that the client needs so they can get the full picture as if they were there. And then they see what I look for and they say, okay, you're not just trying to sell me a house, you're actually, looking for things. As far the better that you know the loan product, and we have a ton of classes on our platform that you can look at as real estate agents, and then we also have for the consumer as well. And it's very important for you to understand whole this what you can and can't do with the VA home loan, because this is going to help you with the negotiations. This is going to help you advise your client what they need to do as well. And the more knowledge you have, and David alluded to the military relocation professional certification, the MRP certification, which I took when I was a brand new agent. I was like, wow, this is awesome because it gives you all the baselines of what you need to know. And it really puts you on it explains what PCS is. So if you're sitting there like, I don't even know what PCS means, um, it tells you everything that you need to know, whether you have prior service or you don't, or whether you're an area, a military spouse, if you have family that serve in the military, or this is something that you really, really want to do. The MRP class is going to be awesome for you to get started, and also the educational platform that we have available for all the agents as well.
Yeah, thanks, Lourdes, on that. And also, you can take the Home Finance Resource Certification course offered by NAR, which does like a real deep dive into understanding the different loan products. I'm a national instructor for that as well, but it outlines those components that you just normally don't think of, and it's important to know the lending side. Not asking that you got to be a lender, but you, in order to talk about some of these next things we're going to talk about, either you have to know this stuff because people are going to come to you, right? Lourdes, people come to you and they ask you mortgage stuff all the time, right? You got to know at least the baseline to know if it's
The base.
true or at least somewhat true. And then you got to partner with a lender that really understands that program and that could be an advocate for what you're doing. That's another big key, right? So you as the agent need to know, the lender needs to know the process inside out, because you have to tag team it together, right? That's important, right? Lourdes and I have done these for the last, we've known each other for the last 6, 7 years, and we've done some five, yeah, maybe
Six,
six,
five,
yeah.
six.
So we've done so many of these. Is that right? Lourdes knows the program inside out because we do so many of these classes, and this is public information. It's in the VA handbook on that. So now, when we talk about building a targeted marketing campaign, there's a couple of things that go into that. One of those things is going to be understanding the demographic within the military community, right? There's the VA. If you just look up, let me see if I could even look it up, because like they provide a lot of the statistics. So I'll plug this in. I'll share with you guys. The VA has like a National Center for Veterans Analysis and Statistics. They'll break things down for you either by state, by county. It'll let you know how many there's active duty individuals, National Guard and Reserve members in the area. It gives you an idea of like, well, how many veterans are actually in my area, right? I think the biggest one is Texas, where they got like 1.56 million veterans. But if you look at Illinois, on their website, they have 608,000, right? But it also breaks it down, right? How many wartime veterans? Gulf War, Vietnam, Korean, World War II. There's still 12,000 World War II veterans. That's awesome. But it just kind of breaks those down for you. But then you can get other lists from them that just break it down individually, because that helps you understand how to, I wouldn't say target the military, but it lets you know how the potential groups that are out there, right? If you have 20 veterans in a $10,000 population, oh, that's going to be tough. But if there's 400,000 veterans in Chicagoland and there's 2 million people, that's a bit different, right? Then you have active organizations, right? Like the military spouse groups. There's National Guard groups that are out there, and there's significant amount of National Guard members, which oftentimes get overlooked, which is mind blowing because they're the ones that actually need the most help as far as knowing their benefits, because you really don't understand your benefits. They don't explain it as much, right? I've been doing it for 14 years. I'm the one that's normally educating everybody else from lower enlisted to chain of command to be like, guys, this is how the programs work. There's all these additional benefits. And I guess that's another piece to that, Lourdes, is that not only do we help veterans with their home buying process, but we help them with their housing. We help them with their GI Bill, VA disability. Like, we help people to. That's another way you're networking, right? You're a connector with other groups for that. But again, identifying what's the main kind of groups around you that you can target or you can work with helps you lay out how you do these other components.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much for that. But yeah, that's just to hit on what you were saying is knowing the insides, knowing the outsides, and also being able. The statistics are very important because it's going to help you lay out your target marketing campaign and what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, what you're going to focus on. Out here, there is out in the Chicagoland area, there is a naval base, but it's a training facility, so you don't have a lot of people coming in and PCSing here. It's not like a traditional military base. So, however, there is a ton of veterans out here, and there's a lot of veteran organizations, which we're gonna be talking about soon. So, we're gonna the next couple steps we're gonna be speaking to and how to really take advantage of that and getting out there and meeting some veterans and being able to help them.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's the thing is like, how do you network with the military? Like, what are some things, Lourdes, that you do when it comes to networking with the military and organizations?
Yeah, so here in the Chicagoland area, one of the organizations that I found was Chicago Veterans, and um, nothing like there was nothing like that in California, Seattle, not any other places that I've been to, and immediately I felt like family. Immediately I found my tribe, I found my people, and when I started to embark the journey of my real estate career, I didn't know that this was going to be so much of a passion of mine. Now I can give back. Now I can teach. Now, I was speaking with someone yesterday and I was like, "How do you know all this?" Or how do you, how what do you do? And I was like, "Well, I'm figuring it out. And this is a box and I go all the way around it and then I'll call David, not now like past 10, but I used to late at night is when I would think and when he was deployed, it was awesome because I call him at whatever time. I would call him at 10, 11 o'clock, and I was like, "Hey, David, I have a question. What if we do this? Or what if we do that? What if we do this?" I was always asking questions to see how we can help our military personnel. So, and even last night I had another conversation with another friend of mine, and she was like, "How do I do this? And how do I do that?" And now because I'm so connected in the community, I can connect her and she'll be able to get on title with her father and then be able to take advantage because she's a disabled veteran and not be able to pay the taxes because she's paying rent right now and it's just as much as the taxes. So that's just going to be so much of a burden taken off from their family, and just being able to help the community and be a part and be a resource in the local community. And it's awesome because I go and I volunteer. I can volunteer hours upon hours with different organizations, which I love out here in the Chicagoland area. It's awesome for veterans, I want to say. But there's such a strong community, and there's different things for what you want to do. There's probably that I know of about a dozen different organizations out here that have their own niche, have their own tribe, and I want to volunteer for all of them. But of course, right now I have like a few of mine that I'm doing. I just got a call from Habitat of Humanity. Do you want to lead the Chicago veterans, this, that, and the other? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, for sure. Because I love to give back to the community. And then also in conversation when I'm out there, I am talking to veterans. I am helping them in any way I can, whether, they're going to be a client now or in the future, or even anything real estate related. I had someone say, hey, do you know a plumber? Actually, I do. Yeah, when here's this information, just because that's what you were talking about, David. We are connectors. So getting out there in the community, if there's not something like this in your area, then you be the pillar. You open it up and say, okay, I'm going to have a network. There's a MVP. Uh, it's merging vets and players that they started off with 4 members and now they're upwards of 30, and it's awesome because you if there's not a group like that, then you start it, you make it and research, and if there's nothing out there, then be that pioneer and get it started, because there's definitely a need. Our military, our veterans need it really bad, because I know that's my USA. It's cut my therapy time down a little bit, just being able to be out there with my brothers and sisters on a weekly basis. And I do see um, a group of veterans at least twice a week, every week, which is awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, someone had a question which kind of is going to lead into what we talked about. So Corey asks is, what are some ways to get face-to-face time with military organizations, and what are some groups I can join? So I think that the tough part is that every area that you're going to be in is going to be a little bit different. The first thing that you start with is just going online and searching veteran organizations that's in like whatever area that you're in. So things will start popping up. You'll start seeing nonprofits come up. The second thing you want to do is go to Eventbrite and see what things are going on in the area. Now, this is what happens pretty quick. You're going to see the organizations that are together at every single event, right? So like we'll use example like Chicago Veterans. They are partnered basically with every nonprofit in the area. So when we go do events together and we sponsor things or do whatever, literally all the groups are there in one shot, being able to talk with people, right? Because again, you're leading with education. That's what you want to do. You want to help people. And then in turn, if people want to work with you, that's great, right? So that's kind of like where you have that trade-off. But there's some finesse that goes into that, because education is first, and then it's going to be like, if people want to work with you, they will come and utilize that. But yeah, I'll just kind of go into a little bit of that, right? So there's different organizations that exist that are going to be like your nonprofits, right? So like a Chicago Veterans, a Wounded Warrior Project, Leave No Veteran Behind. There's just a lot like big organizations that help the veteran community as far as them getting services, right? That's one piece. The other component that you're going to have is going to be your veteran service officers. These are folks that help, either could be like the VFWs. There's other organizations as well that help veterans understand their benefits or get service, going to get a service connected disability. They are connected to a vast amount of organizations and individual veterans, right? So you have the nonprofit organizations that reach out to the veteran community. Then you have like the VFWs that are going to be connecting with the individuals, and they also have access to the veteran community as well. And then you have the active duty component, which, like, let's say in Chicago, is the Great Lakes. Now that's tough to get onto, right? I'll just be honest with you, because unless you can gain base access to even go on and talk with some of these people, it's heavily restricted, right? So that's a really tough place to get into, is on base, unless it's a National Guard or Reserve unit. then you can always reach out to command. All that information is public information. So it's just a matter of doing a Google search to see where those folks are actually located in order to be able to find them. And then, once you do that component, uh, you know, like for Lourdes tonight, is we have 100% commitment to what we do, right? We specialize in this. For individuals that are out there, you might be saying this is like a supplement or like a group that I want to learn about. So when I come across them, I can help them, right? From
Right.
our end, that's what we specialize in working with military members because their challenges are a little bit unique. And so we're 100% committed to helping the veteran community be able to get the answers that they want. Whatever it is, we want to help and give back, right? So that's our focus. But again, uh, if I know civilians there that support VFW posts. That's awesome. They volunteer, like Lourdes is saying, like they volunteer at a lot of organizations, and they're able to be able to then partner with those organizations and provide them seminars on their housing benefits. So that's what we do. Like we don't do anything out of the ordinary, right? Outside of education, but you have to get to work with these organizations as well to be able to do that. One thing that I will tell you is it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time because people don't want badgers. Just be honest with you, everybody. They don't want badgers. If you try to come in as your angle of that's the way you want business, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
We don't ask when we do stuff. We don't ask for business. That's not the goal of what we do, right, Lourdes?
Yeah, it's more coming from contribution. That is
Right.
something that I mean, I love to do both David and I, we love to educate and just make sure people because the information is really hard to find. You can Google it, YouTube it all day long, and you still get wrong information. So yeah, you come from contribution, you come from your heart giving back. I do give back a lot of time, and I was able to even start up an all women veteran group sponsored and supported by Chicago veterans, which is something that's been a real big passion of mine for a very, very, very long time. And now the program's in full effect, and it's awesome because it is very, very lovely. Sometimes female veterans don't have a place where they can feel safe and go when it's co-ed because they start to bring back some of the traumas while they were in service. And yeah, so it just come from a place of contribution. I never talk about real estate unless someone comes up to me and starts talking about it, and it happens quite often. And it didn't happen right away. And I never went in with a, hey, I'm gonna, do this and where's all the referrals coming in? I've never, like that's never been my angle, never been my approach. It's always about helping veterans. And uh, thankfully, that's great that we have that. Another great resource is past clients. You service your clients very, very well. They're going to give your name to the next person coming in. I helped one of our um, a station commander come and helped him. He had a really good experience. He came in, found his house right away under contract. He was only in a hotel for 2 weeks, and then the rest of his people, he was like, before you get here, talk to Lourdes. And now I met one of my clients. He was active duty PCSing here. I met my client at a Chicago veteran event 4 or 5 months after he closed. Like I've never physically met him. Everything FaceTime. And he was like, wow, you're really tall. 'Cause I'm a really tall person. Oh, wow, you're really tall. I'm like, oh, yes, I am. You
That's so
can't tell that
funny.
on FaceTime. But but you can't tell that on FaceTime. But just the word of mouth, your past clients are, and make sure that you service them is very good. We are gonna have a we're gonna do a presentation for my cousin's unit in California for VA housing as well. We're gonna be doing a during one of the drills, so you can also talk to any type of National Guard or a reserve. Uh, Organization and see if you can do that and be able to go in and give a presentation. And also, David and I, we've linked up with some of the veteran organizations that they have within, what was the transit one that we did? Not sure if it was, oh, CTA. We had a webinar for CTA as well. And
That's
so
another
so
good
yeah.
that's another good point is that organizations like Boeing, Chicago, they have what are called veteran affinity groups that they basically get all the veterans together. They do like monthly events. So it's just something to keep in mind that you can actually like go and do presentations for these folks as well, right? So there's just a plethora of information. Now, when it comes to, let's talk about these types of presentations, right? So the key is, right, identify the groups that are in the area. Go to a couple of events and understand like, hey, am I a good fit for this organization? Can I volunteer? Can I help them? Am I passionate about what they're doing? Right. That's number one. Right. When you identify that, people will ask you, what do you do? You talk to them about it, and then you just kind of move on from there. Again, giving back. People remember, trust me. Then it's going to be about setting up presentations and what you should be doing. So you can copy what we do. Just go, just watch our videos. Right? We do these every month. We do these a couple times a month. We partner up with different organizations, and you can partner with a lender, a realtor, whatever the case may be, because the information a lot of times that we talk about when we talk with consumers is the information that we get questions about all the time, misconceptions, or not knowing, oh, I thought this benefit worked this way, or I didn't even know I had this benefit, right? And then giving people an overarching idea of what the program is, because at the end of the day, it's just about having a broad strokes of how a program works so that people could at least understand it and determine, is this something I want to do or not? Not everyone's situation warrants them buying a home 100%. Like we talked about, clients PCSing, being here for a year or being here for 3 years, buying a condo that you can't rent. Does that going to make sense? Right? Are they coming back to this area? Are they going to have a family member that's going to move in? All those situations are going to change. And you sometimes do have to dig deep, or you should be digging deep no matter what, to find out, like, are they going to put themselves in a bad position or a good position? It comes back tenfold. And then you develop a couple types of presentations around either the home buying process. We have like, I probably should have pulled up the list, but we have 12 classes that we do. So one every month, it's a specialty class, right? So we do ones on like how to buy a multi-unit property, how to buy a condo. We have that coming up again, because a lot of veterans just don't know what goes into purchasing a condo. We even talk about careers in real estate. So we give people the opportunity to do what we do, because a lot of times veterans can get free real estate licenses. Lourdes, we had a client closing that actually ended up being a realtor on your team, right? So there's like some cool opportunities to be able to do that and leverage those workshops. From your experience, Lourdes, when we do these workshops and provide information, do not be a badger. I cannot stress that enough. You have to separate yourself out from being whatever you do. You're a lender, you're a realtor. Separate those two things from the education component. But when you do that, what happens, Lourdes, when that happens?
Yeah. So the military organizations really want to work with you because you're not a badger. So they just want to make sure that you're coming from contribution. We are able to, promote, we're able to do, not, I don't wanna say, like, anything, but they understand that we're not coming from, like, "Hey, do you wanna buy a house? Do you wanna buy a house?" Like, it's that's not what we're about. So they understand where we're coming from. They understand that, we do care about people a lot, and we're very passionate about our work, yes, but first and foremost, we're really passionate about taking care of our military personnel, and they see that. So they start to put us in different positions, like, hey, do you want to take the lead on this, and can we do this, and can you do that? One thing that I really want to work on is grant writing, so that we can get grants for these nonprofits, so that we can have a bigger budget, because this one always blows the budget when it comes to my female veteran events, just because we don't like to go to the bars and drink. Like, there's well, sometimes, but not like, that's not what we want to do. We want to do more hands-on things and stuff like that. And those are a little bit more expensive. And I negotiate the crap out of, or I'm sorry, I negotiate a lot from the price down. But I do that for a living. So I'm like, why can't I do it for my veteran communities? So, for example, we're going to do a puttery. We're going to go to a puttery this Sunday, and it's $81. Or I'm sorry, $91 per person. I got it all the way down to $31 per person, which is a huge savings and a huge significant, like, hey, do you give military discount? This is what we're doing. This is who we are. So being able to really advocate, and they see like, wow, she's a really good negotiator, for her job, but also for the veteran community and for what we're doing. But don't come, and I know we've stressed this in many, many different ways, but just come from your heart and come from contribution, and you're gonna be okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, Lord. It's like when you take lead on some of these projects, it also just kind of gives you a good standing on that, right? Now, when it comes to establishing a system for your clients, there's a couple things you got to be aware of, and and you alluded kind of this a little bit early. If you're on time, you're late, right? So the traffic is crazy is out there, but one thing that we've noticed working with I know this because I'm also the same way, is that like when I tell you I'm calling you at 11, when that unless I give you a heads up, like as soon as it touches 11, that phone is ringing, right? And clients do the same thing to me. When we schedule a call and they're calling me, it's on the money, right? Rarely are they late, and rarely are they early for phone calls. In person, normally they'll show up a little bit early because they want to either check out a place if they're meeting in person or something like that. What are some tips, Lourdes, around like providing that customer service experience, right? And it's different for everybody, but in general.
Yeah, things happen. Traffic in Chicago is probably like the worst. It's getting even better as the days as better. I don't know if that's a word, but it's getting worse by the day. So one thing is just make sure that you understand your clientele. If you're running late, let them know. Like, hey, I'm running a little bit late. I'm gonna get there. I'm on my way, but this traffic. But give yourself additional time. I work from my car a lot of the times. I'll be sitting there today. I had a team meeting and I was sitting in the parking lot before I went into my appointment that I had. So it's better to arrive early rather than late, and just understanding that military clientele are very punctual. They're on time. They're early. So they say 10 o'clock, they're there and ready, at 9:55. Like, and that's late for them, because they're used to about 15 minutes prior to. And then you have some that are never on time. I'm starting to fall in that category. No, I'm just kidding. I'm okay, but there are some things, but just understanding who your client are, and how to speak to them, and they do see that as disrespectful, as oh, they need to be 15 minutes ahead of time, even if you're military or not. So that's one thing that we need to communicate. And if your client is, one of those that isn't there 15 minutes prior, just give them, hey buzz, hey, what's your ETA? Oh, okay, okay, I'll see you soon. Just make sure you check in with them. So that's one thing. But I do want to talk about utilizing some online resources. There right now there's a ton of, as you see, ton of media that's going out right now on social media. There's a lot of shorts, there's YouTube videos, there's all these things. So there's a huge opportunity and window for you to promote and to get some of that information out there. So even if it's something as filing for VA disability, or what are you currently doing, and how do you do this and how do you do that? Some of these things are very important, and they might not be real estate related, but it also going to help the military personnel. Every single as soon like literally the day or the day after that the VA tax exemption portal opens up, I am calling all my clients. I'm like, "Hey, don't forget to file for VA tax exemption." "Oh, good thing you reminded me." They always get a call, and I have a list of all my disabled veterans and just making sure that I call them and say, "Hey, make sure you file. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget." Because some have a $24,000 tax, tax liability if they forget they're paying it. So and they'll get your money. So those are some of the things that we want to make sure that we utilize. There are military housing websites, there are platforms. There's so much information for you to start building your online presence and making sure that you're a resource to them. And do you have any tips that you can give based on online resources, David?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of stuff on YouTube, right? And so, but I mean, I research folks to see like who would be the best fit for what I'm doing, right? Everyone's business model is going to be a little bit different. Most of the time, people stay in a local area, but with real estate, like you where you're at, people have teams, right? They have whole teams of people across the country. So it just depends. Like sometimes partnering up with local, let's say, influencers on YouTube that know the community, talk about the community, it'd be worth partnering up with them. I do that more on a national level, right? So we'll get clients from, I got a client in the Philippines right now, Alaska, Guam, and South Korea. I mean, like across the world, and then clients here. So it's just like the depends on what reach you want and where you're going to be is what's going to make the most sense for what you're doing. But I would definitely at least start that process of getting some either social media stuff going because you're going to need that, right? One way or another. Like I'm not on Facebook or Instagram, you are, but I'm on YouTube and you're not, but you are with me right now, right? So that's the way we work together, right? And that's why find partners that you can, find out what you're good and what you're not good at. That's just a
Right,
reality, right? I'm not good at TikTok videos. It's not going to be me. Lourdes, excellent. She's a
perfect.
diva with that, but that's how
Maziba.
people also find
Yeah,
where they can be able to get a hold of you and be able to at least see what you're doing because you become friends with all these people that you partner with, that you go to their events for, and then they see what you do, and that's what starts the conversation. And I'll also allude that these things don't happen overnight. They do take time, right? This is going to be a journey uh,
right,
to get there, right? Yeah, it's not the destination, it's the journey. This is 100% that. Lourdes and I have been doing things for the last 5 years. Yes, have they gotten easy over time? Yes. The only reason is because we have relationships with people. That's it, and they
right,
know what we do. So like that's what makes it easier. So that's just something that anybody can do it. You can duplicate what we do, and that's why we share this with you guys so you can take this and leverage it to your business, right? You're going to cater it.
right.
So
Yeah, we're running a little low on time, so we'll be a little speedy with a couple of these other points. We did talk about participating in military events. Like I said, I do about two military events every single week minimum, and some weeks it's like every day. But we do that, and then offering military friendly services. So once again, this goes back into the educational piece of everything and being able to also be a connector within the community, being able to connect whatever services. Hey, can you help me get put on the deed? Yeah, these are the people that you need to talk to. This is how you do it. This is how you apply for the VA disability exemption, um, etc. And then one thing that we talk about a lot is providing exceptional customer service, always being there. Sometimes our veteran clients, they just need someone to talk to. They need someone who's going to understand them. So that's another thing that, I'm always a phone call away, whatever their needs are, whatever they're going through. I usually can either find them a resource or being able to just, so I'll give an example. we were doing a Chicago veterans event, and someone came up to me. So, what is Chicago veterans? And he was a veteran, had no idea what was going on. I introduced him to the program, and then in conversation, I was like, I think you would benefit from MVP. So I introduced him to that program. He went, and I've seen the biggest transformation in him. He found his tribe. He found his person. Like, and I talked to him yesterday. Hey, how are you? He was like, his and based on his response, I was like, my life is a wreck right now, and I'm putting a smile on my face. I'm living day by day, and he was like, mine is too. And man, it's such a relief to be able to say that to you because I get it. He's going through a lot, and in conversation, I picked up a few things, but being able for him to have a good group of people that he can rely on and talk to is awesome. So the impact that you're doing and providing customer service, even if their clients are not, but just to the veteran community is amazing. And it comes back tenfold. And, it's very gratifying that I'm able to work and to help and then also be an influencer in the veteran space and community.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's just so much that you can do, and just honing in your energy. And even if it's just one organization, trust me, it multiplies pretty fast because they all talk to each other. Right. That's why, a lot of organizations reach out to you, because you've already done so much for the community. Right. So those are things to keep in mind, like as you grow your business, to keep up with it, stay committed, and find what you're passionate about. You go to different organizations, you'll find one to give back. Right. We do it every year too. Like I take my wife and I, every year we go to Heinz Hospital up in Chicago, and we do the food drive for Christmas. That's, or we'll do volunteer for different organizations for whatever that they have, right? Just to at least give back something. Sometimes we participate, sometimes we give back. It's obviously fun participating for some of the events, but other ones you really have to kind of take a step back and focus on helping other people. Especially if it's like a long ruck march, like my body ain't built for that no more. I'll just gladly
But you
volunteer.
can volunteer.
That's not a, but people are
Yeah.
like, "You want to join the team?" No, thank you. I do not. No, my knees, my back, my hips. That's not
Yeah.
gonna happen.
I
So
really want to do the ruck march, but then I was all like, oh, my injury. No.
I know. Yeah.
So,
So,
but I did
so guys,
volunteer.
yeah. So we
But
talked about a lot of stuff
mhm,
today, from just understanding clients, leveraging expertise, finding partners that can help you with that process. There's so much that goes into this. I ask you guys to like the channel, subscribe to it. You can see then all the consumer stuff that we do as well, and get ideas to be able to then do presentations for your organization. And like I said, feel free to take the information that we share with you and create your own material with it, and go out to the community and teach, right? So,
be a
Lotus,
resource
you got
and
anything
yeah.
else?
Yeah, if there's any questions, we do have 3 more minutes, but if you have any questions,
Yeah.
go ahead and drop them in the comment box and we can answer those for you.
Yeah. So again, yeah, thanks to everybody that came up. Like I said, the journey to get to working with, let's say, more military clients is just getting out there. It's like Lourdes said, working with past clients, doing an ask for a past client, right? If they're military, they're part of a military group. Either their work has a military group, or they're on Facebook. Those are all things that you can leverage to be able to do presentations for the consumers. You can see some of the live events that we have from before. We have one coming up next week for consumers as well. I believe it's next Tuesday, and it's about how to win in a competitive market. So we talk to clients about how their benefits work, so then they can talk to their agents about their program, why their VA home loan is very competitive. Because again, it's a big complaint that we get, where veterans are like, well, my offer is not getting accepted. This happens every presentation that I do. They will bring something up like that. And I'm like, that's just kind of heartbreaking. when you put a strategy together on winning a deal, right? And
Right.
it's kind of both sides on that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's really important too, because I even have some of my clients be like, well, I want to offer $50,000 less. And I'm all like, okay, here are the numbers and what have you. But that's very important for you to really understand the market as a whole, and being able, when your real estate agent is advising you, to know if it's good advice or if it's not the best. I had some clients that I have some sellers that had moved to a different state, and they called me every step of the way, and they went with the agent that they recommended or that they found. Although I made some recommendations and people that I vetted, but they did not have the best experience, and I was still able. And I said, hey, I can't. I'm not licensed in that state, so take my advice with a grain of salt. But I was able still to be able to help them in that transition because they were very stressed out.
I get it. Well,
So
thank you, Loris. Well, thanks again for everyone that joined us today. We've hit our time limit. So, you guys have any questions, even after this video is posted, drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it, asking. You guys can check out vahousingeducation.com and get signed up for resources. Or if we do, when we do videos like this, which is every month, you'll get a notification for it. So, you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.